Yes, sir.
My question was economists have been speculating the issue of reestablishing price and wage controls. I guess you just commented on that. Would you like to elaborate on that a little further?
I am afraid that the chances that we shall have price and wage controls are unfortunately not negligible. It is a device that governments have repeatedly resorted to try to cover up the effects of their own policies. It is offered as a cure for inflation. It is not a cure for inflation. It has never been a cure for inflation. It is an alleged cure that is far worse than the disease, because its effect is to repress the symptoms, to repress the consequences of the more basic force. I always say that if you want to analyze wage and price control, the simplest analogy that brings it home is to think of a kettle on your stove in which there's water, and the water is boiling. It's got a cover on it, and the boiling water is threatening to throw the cover off. Now, obvious, sensible thing to do is to turn down the heat under the kettle. Another thing you can do is to take a brick and put it on top of the kettle, and at the same time turn up the heat. That is precisely what President Nixon did in 1971, when he simultaneously put a brick on top of the kettle by freezing prices and wages, and at the same time launched on a more expansive monetary and fiscal policy which turned up the heat under the kettle. And what happened? The lid of the kettle blew up. You held it down for a little while, and then you had a 12%, 13% inflation. That has been the experience every time, not simply over the last 20, 30 years, but for 2,000 years. Emperor Diocletian tried the same thing in Rome 2,000 years ago with identically the same results. So I have nothing but a negative opinion about wage and price controls. For the moment, in the case of Germany,
money.
You might think that getting into the IT field is impossible without a computer science degree, but Tech Coach Ralph is here to prove you wrong. Get ready for some jaw-dropping revelations on how to break into this lucrative industry. Listen up, tech enthusiasts! Are you ready to break through into the IT field, but feel like you need a computer science degree to make it happen? Think again! Tech Coach Ralph has some exclusive, mind-blowing secrets to share with you. Get ready to be blown away by his jaw-dropping revelations on how to break into the tech industry without a computer science degree. So get your notepad ready, because Tech Coach Ralph is going to change your life forever. Buckle up, because you're about to embark on a journey to success in the IT field.
Let's get it.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Tech Coach Ralph. This is the Men Lie, Women Lie, Numbers Manipulate show. Yes, we are doing our weekly economic review. It's probably going to be a pretty long show today because we have so much to review. I was trying to see what we could cut out today and what we have to review, but everything is relevant. So we're going to be on for a while. I have a hard cutoff time at 11:45 Eastern time. So that means we're not going longer than that, but so much to review. We have the numbers for the week to review. We have the and a couple of videos that we want to talk about as well. All right, and I want to look into this 3D home printing as well. So stick along for the ride. We have my guy in the building, Yakar. Good morning, Yakar, out in the West Coast. It is 6:27 for my guy Yakar, and he is in the building rocking with us bright and early for him. Shout out to Yakar as always. All right. Let's not waste any time. The first thing that we're going to do, the very, very first thing that we're going to do, we're going to watch. I'm just going to highlight the key points from the presidential nominee, Vice President Kamala Harris, right? We're going to look at, like, I'm just going to go straight to those timestamps of the things that she highlighted yesterday for what is the very, very first policy, her economic policy, her future vision for the United States of America. All right. So let's get started. Do me a favor, like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel, go over to techcoachralph.dev, sign up for the Patreon, get access to our sprint reviews, one-on-one coaching, all that good stuff. But we have work to do. We have finally gotten some economic policies, and they are just beautiful. All right, let's just jump to that. Let's jump to that real quick, and then we're going to go through our numbers that we're watching this week. We're going to get into each of these reports and figure all that out. All right. So with that being said, let me get to. All right. So let's get into this one right here. The first time.
So listen.
The first timestamp we're going to be jumping to is I'm not going to review the whole video because you should have watched it yourself, but we're going to, let me see if I can make this bigger. All right, let's get to the 4-minute and 20-second timestamp. Can I see, where am I? We are, all right, let's go here. So, and we got me, Mysify, in the building. Good morning to you. Good morning. How are you doing this morning? All right, so let's watch together. I have some timestamps. So this one is going to be the vision of the future. This is the future of the United States of America. Let's watch together.
America's greatest strengths. And to protect it, then, we must defend basic principles, such as your salary should be enough to provide you and your family with a good quality of life. Such as no child should have to grow up in poverty. Such as after years of hard work, you should be able to retire with dignity. And you should be able to join a union if you choose. Building up the middle class will be a defining goal of my presidency, because I strongly believe when the middle class is strong, America is strong. So in the weeks to come, I will address in greater detail.
All right, so that is the vision, right? Let's jump forward to the 7:20 mark. We're going to be talking about the first real highlight in the policy. Let's get to, all right, 7:20. All right.
Elected president, I will make it a top priority to bring down costs and increase economic security for all Americans. As president, I will take on the high costs that matter most to most Americans, like the cost of food. We all know that prices went up during the pandemic when the supply chains shut down and failed. But our supply chains have now improved. and prices are still too high. A loaf of bread costs 50% more today than it did before the pandemic. Ground beef is up almost 50%. Many of the big food companies are seeing their highest profits in 2 decades. And while many grocery chains pass along these savings, others still aren't. Look, I know most businesses are creating jobs, contributing to our economy, and playing by the rules. But some are not. And that's just not right. And we need to take action when that is the case. As Attorney General and
All right, so we have price gouging. All right, price gouging is on the agenda. If you heard the very beginning of the show, like during the intro, you heard some things about price gouging done in the United States in the 1970s and how remarkable that worked out for us. All right, let's jump into the next policy, economic policy that's being proposed. Let's go to where time's up. All right, let's go here.
Score. And I will work as president with states like here in North Carolina, Roy Cooper, thank you again, to cancel medical debt for more and more. Ago, I announced that medical debt will no longer be used against your credit score. And I will work as president with states like here in North Carolina, Roy Cooper, thank you again, to cancel medical debt for more and more, millions more Americans. As for Donald Trump, well, he wants to repeal.
All right, so that's getting rid of medical debt for everyone. So price gouging, getting rid of medical debt, somehow getting everyone to earn a fair, livable wage is part of the vision. And we have 2 more to jump to in economic policy. Let's go to here.
And we will do that together. We will do that together. And we will make sure those homes actually go to working and middle class Americans.
Hold on. Let's move. Are we too far ahead? Yep, we're a little too far ahead. Hold on. Let's go here.
And America's housing shortage by... By the end of my first term, we will end America's housing shortage by building 3 million new homes and rentals that are affordable for the middle class. And we will do that together. We will do that together. And we will make sure those homes actually go to working and middle class Americans, not just investors. Because, you know, some corporate landlords, some of them buy dozens, if not hundreds of houses and apartments. Then they turn them around and rent them out at extremely high prices. And it can make it impossible then for regular people to be able to buy or even rent a home. Some corporate landlords collude with each other to set artificially high rental prices, often using algorithms in price-fixing software to do it. It's anti-competitive, and it drives up costs. I will fight for a law that cracks down on these practices.
So that is the housing policy. And the very last thing we're going to be going to is 20. Let's go to like over here. All right, let's see.
Families deal with rising costs. And that's by letting you keep more of your hard-earned money. Under my plan, more than 100 million Americans will get a tax cut. And we will do this by restoring 2 tax cuts designed to help middle-class and working Americans. The Earned Income Tax Credit and the Child Tax Credit. Through which millions of Americans with children got to keep more of their hard-earned income. We know this works and has a direct impact on so many issues, including child poverty. We know it works. So as president, I'll not only restore that tax cut, but expand it. We will provide $6,000 in tax relief to families during the first year of a child's life. Now think what that means. Think what that means. That is a vital year of critical development of a child. And the cost can really add up, especially for young parents who need to buy diapers and clothes and a car seat and so much else. And we will do this while reducing the deficit. Compare my plan with what Donald Trump intends to do. He plans to get...
All right. That is we finally got some policy laid out from the Democratic nominee. And it's somehow they're going to regulate salaries, I guess. Going to make sure that, everyone ends up in the same position regardless of how they started off. Price gouging, cancel medical debt, build 3 million homes, and give $25,000 for people who have never purchased a home before. So they're pretty much going to pick and choose who can buy them, and then tax cuts. All right. So, that's the foundation for the plan. I am not even going to give any thoughts or opinions on it because we still need to review the numbers for this week. And the reason that I went through this first is because we're going to see how these numbers actually relate, or how this economic policy actually relates to the numbers that we have to review. All right. So I'm going to check the chat real quick, and then we're going to get into this. All right. So we have, let's see. So we got Mitch is in the building, says take off the blazer, loosen up the tie. Superman is alive. Good morning, Mitch. Good morning. And says they all say the same. Ain't that the truth? All right. So, your car says, now you can't complain. You got your own emoji, Mitch. Shout out to that Superman emoji. Shout out to Mitch. It says, who is her target market? I'm going to start that, and we will discuss that later on. And I will, I will even drop the link after we get through these numbers. I'm going to drop the link. So if anyone wants to call in and talk about it, you don't have to be on camera, but we can call in. We can have a discussion about these policies and these numbers, all that good stuff, right? And MySafai says, your video quality is on point for live. I'm going to need a training session. You got to consider it done. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. And let's see. I'm going to star this from Mitch talking about, so we can probably come back to that. Mitch says medical debt doesn't affect your score. They've been changed that, and if it's under $500, it can't report up to a year. And Mitch says something is grinding his gears. Oh my goodness. And Mitch says he's tired of the manipulation, and it says that's true, but how you gonna stop that? I think I know what you're referring to. That's true, but we'll because I do have an opinion on what you said, but we're going to come back to that towards the later on in the show. All right, let's get through our numbers. It says these are just my opinion, just my thoughts, ladies and gentlemen. Well, Mitch, this is equally your show and your car show as well. So whatever opinions you got, it all belongs to you. And it says, why are you doing this to me this early? What am I doing, Mitch? What am I doing? All right. So with that being said, with that being our foundation for today, let's get into our numbers that we're going to be reviewing. All right. So let me make sure that this is going to work right. Let's go to here and no, not that one. Let's go to here and that. Oops. Let's see. Okay. So we are going to get into our numbers for the week. All right. So let's read together. Inflation returns to center stage this week with a key gauge expected to show stable price growth in July. All right. So the U.S. Consumer Price Index likely rose 3%, the same as in June, according to a nowcast by the Federal Reserve Bank of Cleveland. The pace is the slowest since June 2023. While the Fed has been raising interest rates for 2 years to tamp down inflation, it said at its last meeting it was equally concerned with the strength of the labor market. 4/5 of economists surveyed by Bloomberg expect a quarter-point rate cut in September, despite calls from major banks to cut deeper next month. So, we're going to be reviewing the Bureau of Labor Statistics releasing the Producer Price Index for July. The gauge measures the change over time in prices charged by domestic producers for their output. We also have the Bureau of Labor Statistics releasing the Consumer Price Index for July. So this is a good one, right? Which measures inflation through the price of goods and services. So this one is for the producers, those pesky producers who are inflating prices, which are artificially raising prices, making us have to pay more. And then this one is the measures inflation through the price of goods that we actually buy. So those pesky grocery stores who are raising the price of our goods. Then we have the initial jobless claims for the previous week. The proxy for layoffs tracks the number of people filing for unemployment benefits for the first time. Then we have the U.S. Commerce Department, which released the sales report for July, which tracks the demand for finished goods. So finished goods, things that you buy from the grocery store, from the clothing store, if you're going to Kohl's, Macy's, wherever, furniture, rooms to go. So food, clothing, furniture, and in stores and online. And then we have the consumer sentiment of how people feel, how they feel about the current and future economic conditions. And then lastly, we have the U.S. Census Bureau releasing housing indicators, including the preliminary numbers of building permits issued in July and the number of residential projects that started construction last month. So if we were to review this in about 4 years, it might say that we should have about 3 million homes built and purchased. Really? Yeah. So We shall figure it all out. Let me jump into, let me go to the other screen. All right, we're going to look at our Bloomberg, and I want to pull up, let me see. Let's look at so the first thing so let's get our filters up. Where's my filter? My filter. Hold on, refresh. Filter, and we're gonna say we only want to see the United States because we don't have time to review every country's economic conditions. We can do employment. We'll do central bank, economic activity, confidence index, inflation. I think that's good. And let's do apply. And all right, so we have our PPI, producer price index. We have our CPI, our consumer price index. This is year over year. This is a month over month. And then we have our retail sales. And then we have initial jobless claims. And I don't see so we'll just have to go to the University of Michigan one. I don't know why they didn't add that one in there. Hold on, let me see. Let me go, maybe check this. So Michigan is listed under the 2 stars. Okay, no biggie. So let me take this filter on for now. All right, so let's get started with our producer price index. The forecast was 0.2%, but it was actually 0.1%. All right, so let's figure out what exactly, why is this not on screen correct? Hold on, let me see. Let me get it on screen correctly. All right, so let's see what we got going on over here. So give me a second. I don't like how this is messing with me. Let me see if I go to this one. That looks good. Let me zoom in on this one. But this one is a little off screen. All right, I'll just move it for now. All right, so the producer price index measures a change in input prices, raw and semi-finished, for finished goods and services. If input costs rise, some will be absorbed by the producer, and let me zoom in as well. And some will be passed to the consumer. Conversely, if input costs fall, some of the decline will be enjoyed as wider profit margins by the producer, and some will be passed to the consumer in form of lower prices. Because PPI impacts consumer prices, it is watched by central bankers as part of fulfilling their mandate to price stability. All right. So let me see. Let's take a look at, in our Urban Dictionary of Economic Data, what is the producer price index? All right, so the producer price index, let me change this real quick. Page setup, let's do pageless, okay. And let's move back over here and zoom in. Okay, so where's my producer price index? So producer price index, right? Let's go here. All right, so producer price index is similar to the consumer price index, which we'll be reviewing next. But instead of tracking the prices of things that people buy, it tracks the prices that businesses pay to make those things. So here's how it works. The production cost. Imagine a factory making sneakers, right? Let's say they're making your favorite pair of Jordans, right? They need materials like rubber, fabric, and labor. The PPI, producer price index, tracks the prices of these materials and services. Price check. Just like the CPI, the consumer price index, the government checks the prices of these materials and services regularly. So if they're checking it regularly, that means they can automatically know who's artificially raising prices or not raising prices in quote unquote price gouging, if that's even a real thing. Compare prices. They compare today's price with the prices from the past to see if the costs for businesses are going up or down. If the PPI goes up, it means the cost for business to produce goods and services are rising. If the cost goes down, it means the costs are decreasing. So why the hell does this matter? When production cost goes up, businesses might raise their prices to cover these costs, which can eventually lead to higher prices for consumers. So PPI, Producer Price Index, can be an early indicator of inflation, showing how the price of raw material and production might affect the prices we pay in stores. All right. So if it goes down, that means that it costs the producers less, and that that means it could lead to prices going down as well. All right. So let's actually take a look at this Producer Price Index. Okay. I don't know. This is bothering me. Give me a second. Let's see if I was to just. All right. There we go. It's much better. Okay. So let's take a look at where did you go? All right, PPI. So let's take a look at this release URL of the Producer Price Index. And let me check the chat real quick because I want to see what Mitch said. Mitch said, let's see. And then your car had a comment too. So Mitch says, so this is saying 3 years. She's making it seem like as soon as she gets in, it's going to be done. They might start passing the laws. I mean, you're not going to get 3 million houses built on a government policy in the first year. So, but all right. And your car says the Federal Reserve is the issue. The value of the money is what has the greatest effect on the economy. Corporations will blame the feds and feds blame corporations, like DevOps blaming QA for a bug. I love the way that your card just brought it all back to tech. All right. So let's read the Producer Price Index, right? The Producer Price Index for final demand increased 0.1% in July, seasonally adjusted. The U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics reported today. Final demand prices rose 0.2% in June and were unchanged in May. On an adjusted basis, the index for final demand advanced 2.2% for 12 months ended in July. So remember, by it going down, that means that it's costing producers less to be able to produce their products. All right. The July rise in the index for final demand can be attributed to prices for final demand goods, which moved up 0.6%. In contrast, the index for final demand services fell 0.2%. Prices for final demand, less food and energy and trade services advanced 0.3% in July after increasing 0.1% in June. So why do we actually why do we read this, right? Because we could just listen to someone on CNBC or something talk about this. But why do we read it? Why do we read it for ourselves, right? So let's read this part again. The price for final demand good, less energy and less foods, energies, and trade services advanced 0.3% in July after increasing 0.1% in June. So if the number is going up, that means those certain things are getting more expensive. So final demand outside of these three categories, they went up a little bit. For the 12 months ended in July, the index for final demand, less food and energy and trade moved up 3.3%. All right. So year over year, right? For 12 months ending in July, it's up 3.3%. However, we did get a 0.1% decrease. The economy is doing absolutely marvelous, though. Absolutely marvelous. All right. Okay. All right. Let's go there. All right, cool. So what else do we got? Final demand goods. Prices for final demand goods rose 0.6% in July, the largest advance since a 1.1% jump in February. Nearly 60% of the broad-based increase in July can be traced to the index for final demand energy, which moved up 1.9%. Prices for final demand goods, less food and energy for the final demand goods also rose 0.2% and 0.6% respectively. Product detail. A quarter of July July rise in index for final demand goods attributable to, oh, where's the wealth building journey? I just hit attributable like it was nothing. Look at that. To a 2.8% advance in prices for gasoline. The index for diesel fuel, meats, jet fuel, fresh fruits and melons, and basic organic chemicals also increased. Conversely, so whoa. Let's not just run over that. The indexes for diesel fuel, meats, jet fuel, fresh fruits, and melons. Melons aren't fruits? I don't know. And basic organic chemicals also increased. Conversely, prices for electric power decreased 1.1%. The indexes for fresh and dry vegetables and for steel mill also moved down. Final demand services. Prices for final demand services fell 0.2% in July, the largest decrease since moving down 0.2% in March of 2023. The July decline can be traced to the index for final demand trade services, which dropped 1.3%. Trade indexes measure changes in margins received by wholesalers and retailers. In contrast, prices for final demand services, less trade transportation and warehousing for final demand transportation and warehouse services rose 0.3% and 0.4% respectively. So while the overall number went down, some really important stuff are going up. So product detail, leading the July decline in prices for final demand services, margins for machinery and vehicle wholesaling decreased 4.1%. The indexes for food and alcohol retail, automobiles retailing, partial automotive fuels and lubricants retailing, desktop and portable devices, application software publishing, and physician care also fell. Conversely, prices for portfolio management advanced 2.3%. The indexes for chemical and allied products wholesaling and for truck transportation of freight also rose. All right, so this is a breakdown of what went up and the numbers that adjusted. All right, let's see. So intermediate demand, let's see. All right, so intermediate demand. Within intermediate demand in July, prices for processed goods and advanced 0.7%. The index of unprocessed goods increased 3.6%, and prices. So the index for unprocessed goods increased 3.6%, and prices for services rose 0.3%. So remember, the producer price index is the cost of the producers, right? So is their price going up or down? Which, if it's going up, that can be a sign of inflation to come. If it's going down, that means that things are easing off, right? But this is the cost to the actual producers, the people who make the things. This is their cost, right? Let's see. So, within intermediate demand, all right. So processed goods for intermediate demand. The index for processed goods for intermediate demand rose 0.7% in July, the largest advance since moving up 1.4% in February. Over 70% of the broad-based increase in July is attributable to 2.8% jumps in prices for processed energy goods. The index for processed foods and feeds and for processed material less foods and energy also advanced 1.3% and 0.1% respectively. For the 12 months ended in July, prices for processed goods and for intermediate demand moved up 0.8%, the first increase since a 2.1% rise for the 12 months ended February 2023. Let's see, product details. Over 60% of the July increases in price for processed goods for intermediate demand can be traced to 12.9% jump in diesel fuel index. So it looks like the price of the brick for diesel fuel is going up. Prices for basic organic chemicals, meat, gasoline, jet fuel, and utility natural gas also moved higher. In contrast, the index for commercial electric power fell 1.2%. Prices for cold rolled steel sheets and strips for processed poultry also declined. All right. So the canned meat price declined. All right. Let's see. Unprocessed goods for intermediate demand. The index for unprocessed goods for intermediate demand moved up 3.6% in July, the largest advance since rising 4.6% in August of 2022. Nearly 2/3 of the broad-based increase in July is attributable to a 6.2% jump in prices for unprocessed energy material. The indexes for unprocessed foodstuff and feed stuff and for unprocessed non-food materials, less energy also advanced 2.9%. and 0.7% respectively. For the 12 months ended in July, prices for unprocessed goods for the intermediate demand moved up 3.2%. The largest increase rising 10.7% for the 12 months ended in December 2022. All right. Let's see. Product detail, over 40% of the July advance in the index for unprocessed goods for intermediate demand can be traced to a 5.5% increase in crude petroleum prices. The index for natural gas, slaughtered poultry, raw milk, slaughtered cattle, and carbon steel scrap also moved higher. Conversely, corn prices decreased 5.4%. So that means that we will probably be eating a lot more corn in the coming weeks. The index for wheat and for raw cotton also declined. There we go. All right. Let's see. So let's get to services, and we'll end it with services. All right. So services for intermediate demand. The index for services for intermediate demand moved up 3% in July, the fifth consecutive increase. A major factor in the broad-based July advance was a 0.3% rise in prices for services less trade, transportation, and warehousing. The indexes for trade services for intermediate demand and for transportation and warehousing services for intermediate demand each inched up 0.1%. For the 12 months ended in July, prices for services for intermediate demand increased 3.3%. So year over year, it's still higher, but it's going down a little bit. It's going down a little bit. All right. So let's stop it there. Let's stop it there for our producer price index. So the 0.1% decrease still has a lot of increases mixed into it. All right. Let's see. Let's take a quick look at the chat so we don't fall too far behind. And then we will jump into, what's the next thing we're jumping into? We're going to be jumping into our consumer price index to follow. All right. So let's see what we got here. All right. So Mitch says, I know she is making it seem like that to the uninformed. Isn't that the job of politicians, though? To pretty much to gaslight? I mean, no, it's not gaslighting. Gaslighting is when you know better, but most people probably don't know. I would say a good majority of people don't know. And I totally get it. Mitch. It says, that lady grinding my gears. I thought I said something to you. All right. So let's jump into our consumer price index. All right. So what is the consumer price index before we get any further? Right. So consumer price index. Let's jump over to here. So the consumer. All right. Consumer price index. It is it's like a price report card for everything for everyday things you buy, like groceries, gas, clothes, and even rent. Imagine you making a shopping list of all the stuff you need. The consumer price index keeps track of how much that list costs over time. So here's how it works. So the shopping basket, think of it as a big basket filled with all the stuff people usually buy. Price check. The government checks the price of these items regularly. So eggs. So the price of eggs, the price of milk, the price of meat, the price of, oranges, all that type of stuff, right? And they compare the prices. They compare today's prices with the prices from the past to see if things are getting more expensive or cheaper. So if the CPI goes up, it means prices are rising and your money doesn't stretch as far. If it goes down, things are getting cheaper. So why the hell should we care about this CPI, right? Well, it affects how much money you will need to live and how much you can save. It also influences things like wages, pensions, and even the economy overall. Basically, the consumer price index is a way to measure the cost of living and how it changes over time. All right. So let's take a look at our CPI. Let's close this one. And month over month for July, it is 0.2. It was actually 0.1 last month, but while the producer price index went down by 0.1, I just had a thought, right? The consumer price index will always be trailing the producer price index, because if it costs the producers this month less money, then that means that those the cost drop won't be translated over to the consumers until like a month or two, you know? So let's take a look at what they have to say. So let's see what we got. Consumer price index, 0.2. Let's go HTML. So let's start reading. The consumer price index for all urban consumers increased 0.2% on a seasonally adjusted basis after declining 0.1% in June. The U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics reported today, over the last 12 months, the all item index increased 2.9% before seasonal adjustment, right? The index for shelter rose 0.4% in July, so housing got a little bit more expensive, accounting for nearly 90% of the monthly increase. In the all item index, the energy index was unchanged over last month after declining in the 2 preceding months. The index for food, so food got a little bit more expensive in July as it did in June. The food away from home also rose 0.2% over the month, and the food at home increased 0.1%. So food is getting more expensive overall. The index for all items less food and energy rose 0.2%. In July, after rising 0.1% in the preceding month. Indexes which increased in July include shelter, motor vehicle insurance, household furnishings and operations, education, recreation, and personal care. The indexes for used cars and trucks, medical care, airline fares, and apparel were among those that decreased over the month. So clothes got cheaper, airline fares got cheaper, medical care got cheaper, and used cars and trucks also got cheaper. The all item index rose 2.9% for the 12 months ending in July, the smallest 12-month increase since March 2021. The all items less food and energy rose 3.2% over the last 12 months and was the smallest 12-month increase in that index since April of 2021. The energy index increased 1.1% for the 12th month for 12 months ending in July. The food index increased 2.2% over the last year. All right. So there goes our table of the foods of everything, all the numbers. And so if we look at here, all items 0.2, food is the same. Let's see. What was the highest? 0.4. 0.9. So fuel oil rose the most. All right. Let's see, anything else. So let's take a look at, I guess we'll read, let's read these two, food and energy, right? Because that's like pretty much the two biggest ones, right? So the food index increased 0.2% in July, as it did in June. The index for food at home rose 0.1% in July. 3 of the 6 major grocery stores' food groups indexes increased over the month, while the other 3 indexes declined in July. The index for meat, poultry, fish, and eggs rose 0.7% in July, as the index for eggs increased 5.5%. The fruits and vegetables index rose 0.8% over the month, and the non-alcoholic beverages index increased 0.5%. All right, let's see. The index for other foods at home fell 0.5% in July after rising 0.5% in June. The cereal and bakery products indexes also decreased 0.5% over the month, and the dairy and related products index declined 0.2%. Let's see. The index for food rose for food at home rose 1.1% over the last 12 months. The meat, poultry, fish, and eggs index rose 3% over the last 12 months, and the non-alcoholic beverages index increased 1.9%. Over the same period, the index for other foods at home rose 0.9%. The index for cereals and bakery products was unchanged over the last 12 months. In comparison, fruits and vegetables fell 0.2% over the year, and as did the dairy and related products index. All right. And the food away, the index for food away from home rose at 4.1%. All right, so let's take a quick look at energy, and then we shall move on. All right, so the energy index was unchanged in July after decreasing 0.2% in June. The gasoline index was also was also unchanged from last month. All right. I think that's it. I think that's pretty much says it all. The energy index increased 1.1% over the past 12. All right, cool. So that is our consumer price index. So it went up a little bit, not too much, but it went up a little bit. But it might go down a little bit based on the producer price index, maybe in September or maybe in the report for August or September. All right. So that's what I see. Okay. So get some water. Okay. So now let's do a quick look at our jobless claims. So the jobless claims is the report that, let me see how much information they have here, but this is the report that says how many people are filing for unemployment for the first time. And let's go to so the initial jobless claims, 227,000 people. The forecast was they thought that 236,000 people would be laid off. The previous was 234, and so let's take a look at that. Let me see. Always lose that one. Just Google it. All right, let's look at the news release. And I'm just gonna go very, very high level on this because we know we review this every week. But in the week ending of August 10th, the advanced figures for seasonally adjusted initial claims was 227,000, a decrease of 7,000 from the previous week's revised levels. The previous week's was revised up by 1,000 from 233 to 234. The 4-week moving average was 236,500, a decrease in 4,500 from the previous week's level average. The previous week average was a revised up from by 250. All right. So like we said, they always revise up. So it's actually 234,000. But this week so far it's only 227,000. But it's probably going to go up anyways. All right. So let's take a look at the graph real quick. Yeah, we're at 227,000 this week. And the insured unemployment rate is 1.2% for the week ending of August 3rd. All right. And let me see. Let's just jump down all the way to the bottom. I always like to read, what's this over here? I always like to read this part, right? So the highest insured unemployment rates in the week ending of July 27th were in New Jersey, as always, 2.8, Rhode Island, 2.6, Puerto Rico, 2.5, California, 2.3, Minnesota, 2.0, and Connecticut, 1.9, Pennsylvania, 1.9, Massachusetts, 1.8, Illinois, 1.7, Nevada, 1.7, New York, and Washington as well at 1.7. The largest increases in initial claims for the week ending in August 3rd was New Jersey taking the lead again. Shout out to New Jersey. California, Wisconsin, New York, and Illinois. And the largest decreases were in Michigan with 7,000. And Texas with 5,000, Missouri, Virginia, and Georgia. All right. So that's our jobless claims. We're going to get into the next one in a bit. Let me see what we got going on in the Chizat. We got raw juice and herbs, aka Alexis G. Good morning, good morning, good morning. How are you doing this fine, lovely morning? We are just reviewing the proposed economic policy compared to our weekly numbers for the week to see what is going on. Are we being gaslit? All right, because if everything is so well, number one, why doesn't it feel that way? Number two, why does all these drastic changes have to be made? I don't know. So we are going to get into the U.S. Commerce Department releasing the retail sales report for July, which tracks demand for finished goods such as food, clothing, and furniture in-store and online. Let's go to our Bloomberg schedule. All right, so we are looking at retail sales month over month. And the forecast was 0.1%. It was actually 1%. So the retail sales gauge gauges the change in the aggregate value of sales at the retail level across the country. It is an important indicator for consumer spending, accounting for the majority of overall economic policy. A reading that is stronger than forecast is generally supportive, bullish for the U.S., while a weaker forecast reading is generally negative, bearish for the U.S. dollar. So this means that this is actually a bullish outlooking on the U.S. dollar. Let's take a look. All right, let's see. Where is this report? Let me see. All right, view all economic indicators. All right, there it goes. We have the advanced monthly retail sales. So advanced monthly retail sales. The change in June was negative 0.2. The change in July is 0.1. I want to see the press release. I want to download it. Let's see. I want to download the press release. Can I just see it online? Let's see. Oops, sorry about that. We got some coffee. So the U.S. retail and food services sales for July were $709.7 billion, an increase in 1%. I guess I have to let me see if I download it. What happens? All right, so we have the U.S. Census Bureau announced the following advanced estimates for the U.S. retail and food services sales for July of 2024. Advanced estimates, let's see, we're seasonal variation and holiday and trading day differences, but not for price changes, were $709.7 billion, an increase of 1% from the previous month and 2.7% for July 2023. Total sales for May 2024 through July of 2024 period were up 2.4% from the same period a year ago. The May 2024 to June 2024% change was revised from virtually unchanged to down 0.2%. The retail trade sales were up 1.1% from June 2024 and up 2.6% from last year. Non-store retailers were up 6.7% from last year, while food services and drinking places were up 3.4%. Let's see. I think that's it. So and let me see, do I have anything in our Urban Dictionary of economic data about this? Let's see. I don't see that one. I don't think it's this one. Nope, that's not it. All right, so next time we'll review that. So let's go over to that one was pretty quick. Let's get to, we have two more to get through, and then we should be done with that. And then we can get into our very, very exciting conversation. All right. So Let's get to the University of Michigan. Let me go to that. So the University of Michigan's it pretty much tells us how people are feeling about the economy. Let me go to here, and we're gonna go to consumer sentiment. This is, let me see, go here. What the heck is that? All right, there we go. So, consumer sentiment, index of consumer sentiment. Let's see. So, August of 2024, preliminary. It is 67.8%. So people are feeling it's a 67.8 is the rating, is the index compared to, let me see, do I have this one in our, I know we had it. Let me see. I probably have it in another, I think I have it in another document, which I'll bring it. Oh, there we go. So what is the University of Michigan's consumer sentiment? Let's get a quick breakdown, all right? So it's a survey that asks people how they feel, how they feel about the economy. It gathers information about what people think about their current financial situation, how they feel about spending, and what they expect for the future. The survey results are combined into an index, which is like a score that shows whether people feel positive, negative, or neutral about the economy. The index is important because it helps us to understand how confident people are feeling about spending. When people feel good about the economy, and their own financial situation, they are more likely to buy things like clothes, gadgets, and cars, which helps businesses grow and create jobs. If the index shows people are worried, they might spend less, which can slow down the economy. Economists and government officials use this information to make decisions about things like interest rates and economic policies, helping them support a healthy economy. All right, so let's read about that. Where was this one? So, survey of consumers, Director Joanne Su. Consumer sentiment was essentially unchanged for the fourth consecutive month, inching up 1.4 index points. With election development dominating headlines this month, sentiments for Democrats climbed 6% in the wake of Harris replacing Biden as the Democratic nominee for president. For Republican, sentiment moved in the opposite direction, falling 5% this month. Sentiments of independents who remain in the middle rose 3%. The survey shows that 41% of consumers believe that Harris is a better candidate for the economy, while 38%. This survey shows that 41% of consumers believe that Harris is a better candidate for the economy, while 38% chose Trump. There are many things that I could see people say believing that Harris is a better candidate for, but for the economy? For the economy? In comparison, between May and July, Trump had a 5-point advantage over Biden on the economy. Yakar, Mitch, Alexis. Isn't the person who's running the person who had a heavy hand in the economy the way it is today? Am I being gaslit here? Are we being gaslit? That's what I'm wondering. Are we being gaslit? I am so confused right now. All right, let's keep going. Overall, expectations strengthened for both personal finances and 5-year economic outlook, which reached its highest reading in 4 months, consistent with the fact that election development can influence future expectations, but are unlikely to alter current assessments. Survey responses generally incorporate who, at the moment, consumers expect the next president will be. Some consumers note that if their election expectations do not come to pass, their expected trajectory of the economy would be entirely different. Hence, consumer expectations are subject to change as the presidential campaign comes into greater focus. Even as consumers expect that inflation still their top concern will continue stabilizing. Year ahead, inflation expectations came in at 2.9% over the second straight month. These expectations range between 2.3 to 3%. In the 2 year prior to the pandemic, long-run inflation expectations came in at 3%, unchanged from the last 5 months. These expectations remained somewhat elevated relative to the 2.2 and to 2.6% range seen in the 2 year pandemic. Index of consumer expectations, that went up. Current economic conditions, those went down. Index of consumer sentiment, that slightly went up. All right. So that is the University of Michigan for you. That I don't know who they asked these questions to, but I am dumbfounded. I am dumbfounded. All right. Let's see anything that we have in here. And Mitch says, I'm just reading, all right? I'm just reading, but I don't know. All right. We have one more left until we get into some much more fun stuff. So the very, very last one is the Census Bureau releasing housing indicators, including the preliminary number of building permits issued in July and the number of residential projects that started construction. All right, so let's pull that one up. Where is that one? Hold on. Let me find that one. Where is that one? All right, there we go. So let's go and take a look at that. So new residential construction in June, it went up 1.1%, but in July, it went down negative 6.8%. Privately owned housing starts in July. Housing starts in July were at a seasonally adjusted annual rate of 1,238,000. This is a 6.8% below the revised June numbers of 1,329,000. So let's download that. And let's take a look. So this is the building permits. So privately owned housing units authorized by building permits in July were at a seasonally adjusted annual rate. Let me see if I can zoom in on this too. All right, at a seasonally adjusted annual rate of 1,396,000. This is 4% below the revised June rates of 1,454,000 and is 7% below the July 2023 rate of 1,501,000. Single family authorizations in July were at a rate of 938,000. This is 0.1% below the revised June figures of 939,000. The authorization of units in building with 5 units or more were at 408,000 in July. Housing starts. Privately owned housing starts in July were at a seasonally adjusted annual rate of 1,238,000. This is 6.8% points below the revised June estimates of 1,329,000 and 16% points below the July of 2023 of 1,473,000. Single-family housing starts in July were at a rate of 851,000. This is 14.1% percentage points below the revised June figure of 991,000. The July rate for units in buildings with 5 units or more was 363,000. Housing completions, how about that, right? Privately owned housing completions in July were at a seasonally adjusted rate of 1,529,000. This is 9.8% points below the revised June numbers of 1,696,000, but 13.8 percentage points above July 2023. Single family housing completions in July were at a rate of 1,054,000, and this is 0.5% points above the revised rates of June rate of 1,049,000. The July rates for units in buildings with 5 units or more was 473,000. All right. So that concludes the numbers that we have to review for the week. So with that being said, we're going to go to full screen. We're going to do it again. We're going to, based on everything we just went through, we're going to watch again the proposed economic policy for the next 4 years. All right. For the next 4 years. All right. So please bear with me. Let me check the chat real quick first. Anything in the chat? Nope. We are good to go. So we're going to watch this together. We got through these numbers pretty quick because there are some things that we really need to get to. All right. So let's go to watch it.
So listen, this election don't yet everyone resistant and transcendent economy key to creating this opportunity economy is building up our middle class. It is essential. The middle class is one of America's greatest strengths. And to protect it, then, we must defend basic principles, such as your salary should be enough to provide you and your family with a good quality of life. Such as no child should have to grow up in poverty. Such as after years of hard work, you should be able to retire with dignity. And you should be able to join a union if you choose, building up the middle class.
So let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Now, what exactly is a decent salary, right? Let me go back a little bit. Let's go back a little bit, right?
After years of grow up in to provide you and your family, your salary should be enough to provide you and your family with a good quality of life.
Can somebody define to me what exactly is a good quality of life? And how does your it's going to be a tough day, all right? How does your there are different jobs in this world. Some jobs pay more, some jobs pay less. So if your salary is supposed to provide you with a good quality of life, but you're doing a job that it's not in demand. How the statement of your job is supposed to provide you a good quality of your salary, or for whatever job you work, is supposed to provide you a good quality of life. That is just that makes no sense to me. All right. So your car, Mitch, Alexis, like Share your thoughts. Whoever's watching, share your thoughts. But you know what? And I'm gonna turn on the call. I'm gonna turn on calling. All right, let's do this. Because if anybody wants to call in, Mitch might want to call in for this. I don't know. But I'm turning this on. I'm turning this on. I'm dropping the link in the chat if anybody wants to call in and have a conversation about this. All right. So the statement that your salary should be able to provide you a good quality of life, that to me, that doesn't make any sense, because salaries go from $20,000 a year to as much as you can make. I think the career that you go into is what's going to determine the quality of your life. I think it's your spending habits that's going to determine the quality of life. I think it's the decisions that you make is going to determine the quality of your life. What this sounds like is absolutely zero accountability for the choices that people make on a day-to-day basis. If I was to stay with when I got my first job, or not my first job, but whatever. Let's go to my first job. Let's say when I was 16 years old, I started working. My first job was working at a park, right? 15 and a half to be exact. I was working at a park. And let's say I just stayed there in that first job forever. Would I expect that I should be, with that job, being able to take care of myself and a family? Like, come on. I had to work hard to learn, figure a lot of things out on my own.
Such as, no child should have to grow up in poverty.
Why do children grow up in poverty? Why, like, is it because the salaries that the parents earn isn't enough? Is it because they don't have $6,000 in their first year? Is it, or is it because that people might be having kids at times that they shouldn't be having kids? Is that a possibility as well? Is it because when you don't make wise career decisions, financial decisions, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera?
Such as, after years of hard work, you should be able to retire with dignity. And you should be able...
Lastly, on this one, right, on this first vision about retiring with dignity, what does that mean? So, if I was to go through my whole life, I get to whatever the retirement age is, right? And throughout my whole life, I never put any money aside, never invested in 401k, never invested in stocks, never did anything. And I just spent it all. Right? I wanted a Hellcat. I wanted a sports cars, and I wanted some fancy jewelry and stuff like that. So I just wasted all my money. I totally squandered it, right? And now I get time to retire and I have nothing. And now I'm complaining, oh, I don't feel like I'm retiring in dignity. But whose fault is that? I honestly believe that your life belongs to you. And putting all of these things in place, it just makes it, I think it makes people a lot more dependent. All right. So let's jump over to the price gouging stuff, right?
Paycheck. They worked second or even third jobs on spending money. Later in college, I worked at McDonald's to families on that jobs to pay rent and buy. When I am elected president, I will make it a top priority to bring down costs and increase economic security for all Americans. As president, I will take on the high costs that matter most to most Americans, like the cost of food. We all know that prices went up during the pandemic when the supply chains shut down and failed. But our supply chains have now improved, and prices are still too high. A loaf of bread costs 50% more today than it did before the pandemic. Ground beef is up almost 50%. Many of the big food companies are seeing their highest profits in 2 decades. And while many grocery chains pass along these savings, others still aren't. Look, I know most businesses are creating jobs, contributing to our economy, and playing by the rules. But some are not. And that's just not right.
So let's have this conversation, right? Price gouging. Not price gauging, but price gouging, right? Ooh. How can someone please explain how does what is price gauging, and how, you know what, let's just look it up. Let's look it up. Let's look it up, right? For those who don't know. Let's see here. So pretty much price gouging, right, is when you quote unquote artificially raise the price of something because it might be in demand or something like that, right? So pretty much you see it like this. This is when you see quote unquote price gouging. It's when you see, let's say there is so down here in Florida, right, when we get hurricanes, and a store would be selling a bottle or a case of water for, let's say, the regular price. I'm going to use BJ's, for example. So not that BJ's does this, but this is the example, right? So BJ's will like, typically they're a case of like 48 bottles of water is $2.99, $3.99, right? But when the hurricane is coming, let's say they raise it up to $12.99. Right? Now they're going to say, oh, BJ's is price gouging, and that's illegal and stuff like that. However, is price gouging actually a bad thing? Is it even price gouging? No. To me, at least from what I've learned, is that what happens, it's just a way for supply and demand. Because let's put it like this. What if we all, let's say there's 4 of us, right? So let's say there's Alexis, me, your car, Mitch, and some disaster is about to happen, right? So we need to buy some supplies, and they leave it at $3.99. So and I get there first, and I just buy all of them, right? So now, Alexis, Mitch, your car, they don't have any. They can't find anything, right? But now if I have to raise the prices but if they raise the prices so that I won't like I can't afford buying all of them. So let me just buy what I need. I'm gonna buy one. So that leaves open for them to buy as well because supply and demand. When there's scarcity, the prices go up. Same way when the prices of gas raises and stuff like that. The way that these stores will combat it is they'll say, all right, there's a limit that you can buy one or two. So in order for like the price of eggs, they didn't go crazy. They'll say, all right, so in this case, what we'll do is we'll say one egg limited per customer. But why? So if you have to limit the amount that people can buy, that just means there's not enough to go around. There's a scarcity. So, yeah. So let me see. So let's check the chat real quick because your car has some comments. All right, let's see what we got going on. Mitch says that your people, who are my people? Who are my people, Mitch? Let me make that a little smaller. That over there. All right. And your car says, it's your parents' fault for raising a weak person. That's not very nice, your car. It says, who's creating jobs? I don't know. I don't know who's creating these jobs. And your car says, she is saying that as if it's not, as if she was not and still not in office, she can do something about it now. Why wait? Because you need something to run on. And let's see, as she might as well throw some watermelons in with that. Let's see. So your car says price gouging is when you go to the store and you know you don't have enough money. So your price gouging what you buy to make sure you don't go over your limit, and the price. That's what price gauging is. That's what price gauging is, not what price gouging is. Your car says that's a bad example. It's literally a law that says you cannot raise gas prices on a hurricane evacuation route. So, being that I am a native Floridian who has been through many hurricanes, here's what happens, right? They raise, so number one, the price is going to get raised a little bit before like you're even told to evacuate, right? So the prices already start going up. And it's not, and I'm gonna tell you this, your car, it's not about the evacuation route, because for those who get out, they get out great. And if you ever seen those hurricane evacuations, right? It is traffic at like it is backed up to God knows how long, right? And it's not about when you're evacuating; it's when you're coming back, or it's the aftermath. It's the aftermath of the hurricane. So, number one, there is no gas for days, sometimes weeks. Like, and you have to find. I remember there was one hurricane that happened. We were like driving to all sorts of different gas stations trying to find gas, which there was none. And then when you would find one, the prices were higher. And why were the prices higher? Because it cost more money to get the gas in, and there was a lot more scarcity, and there was a long line to get the gas. So to me, it's not price gouging; it's adjusting for the economic conditions. It says logistics can't keep up with small amount of people buying more than they can consume. That's why they end up putting in the limits. So it says, what's the difference of buying a pack of water than reselling just one bottle for $5? Water boys. Good question. That is a great question. You have to consider there are so many trucks and the roads are so big. People just need to consider others when disaster happens. That's not going to happen. Like, people are like, people are not going to consider others because, see, people consider others when there is no disaster. When disaster happens, that's when they don't consider others because it's like, all right, I got to make sure that I'm good. So I'm going to buy up all the toilet paper. I'm going to buy up all the water, whatever else. So it's not when the disaster happens. It's actually the opposite. It's when things are good. Like, oh, you know, I can help out. I have a little bit extra. But when things are going bad, people are going to be looking after themselves. That's it's just how the world works, you know. Let's see. We got Peter Investor M in the building. Good morning. Salute to you as well. And it says, it's also a sales tactic to sell goods. It's only 3 left. You better get it before it's gone. If you've ever looked at Temu, it's always limited stock, only 3 left on Temu. It's crazy how they do that. Always only 3 left. And then they'll put it out of stock. And then like 2 minutes later, it's back in stock with 3 left. I'm just saying. It says, I didn't say they don't do it. It's Florida. Of course, they are throwing hurricane parties like the Purge. Shout out to the hurricane parties. It says, craziest people live in all of Florida and the Bronx, New York. And it says, subs moving to ICU. Thank you, Mitch. Thank you.
I appreciate you.
So, all right. So that is, so honestly, me, I don't like for quote unquote price gouging. For price gouging, it's going to be one of the two, right? Either you're going to be limited, you're going to have a limit on how much you can buy, or they're going to adjust the price so that for the supply and demand. Simple as that. It's going to be one or the other. It's going to be one or the other, you know? And here's a question. It's illegal, but should it be? Should it be illegal to raise the prices? So that's also part of the question. Just because something is illegal doesn't make it right. You know, we'll see. We shall see. All right, so let's go. And so let's keep going a little bit. Where were we? We're jumping to. I'm not even going to spend time on the medical debt, right? That one I'm not even going to talk about, right? So let's go over to 17. So around. Let's go here.
It is out of reach for far too many American families. Right now, it is out of reach for far too many American families. There's a serious housing shortage. In many places, it's too difficult to build, and it's driving prices up. As president, I will work in partnership with industry to build the housing we need, both to rent and to buy. We will take down barriers and cut red tape, including at the state and local levels. And by the end of my first term, we will end America's housing shortage by building 3 million new homes and rentals that are affordable for the middle class. And we will do that together. We will do that together. And we will make sure those homes actually go to working and middle class Americans, not just investors. Because, you know, some corporate landlords, some of them, buy dozens, if not hundreds of houses and apartments. Then they turn them around and rent them out at extremely high prices. And it can make it impossible then for regular people to be able to buy or even rent a home. Some corporate landlords collude with each other to set artificially high rental prices, often using algorithms in price-fixing software to do it. It's anti-competitive, and it drives up costs. I will fight for a law that cracks down on these practices.
All right. So I think you had a comment about this earlier, Mitch, if I remember correctly. So you said, that's true, but how are you going to stop that? Is that what you're referring to, Mitch? Was that what you were referring to about the landlords who are colluding together and all that type of stuff? So here's a question, right? So a couple of things. So number one, here's my first question. Who exactly is going to be building these homes? Who is going to be building these homes? Who is going to be building these homes? So, because is it going to be, what is the name of that? Lennar Homes? Who's going to be building these homes? Whatever other housing company, building company? Because when Lennar Homes builds these homes, they own it and then they sell it. So who is going to get into bed with the federal government to build these homes, to make sure they get paid back? And the $25,000, right? Where is that money coming from? Let me read a couple of comments. Right? So, Peter Investor M says, to drop the price, you need more inventory of goods available to sell. Supply and demand. If I have a million cases of water that I want to sell, but I only have 1,000 people to buy them, I have to drop my prices. If I have 1,000 cases of water, but 1 million people want to buy them, I have to raise my prices. Like, that's the basic understanding. Peter Investor M says, the key is to create incentives for businesses to foster growth and have access to capital. It costs to run businesses. There are so many taxes, from payroll to sales taxes. Exactly. But the thing is, from what I'm hearing is, we'll let you create your business, but we are going to heavily monitor every single thing that you do. We want to control your prices. We want to control who you can sell to. Now, let's say the government gives us $25,000 that we're going to be paying for. But if the main problem is people have a spending problem, what's going to be the interest rate? What's going to be the cost to build these homes? Who's setting a cap on the houses? Like, who's going to be determining how much these houses can be sold for? Your car says, anti-competitive is using the DOJ to prosecute your political opponent. How about that? It says they will use illegal immigrants to build the homes, and that will kill the construction workers that are not illegal immigrants. So, yeah, it's going to be pretty interesting. It's going to be pretty interesting how this is going down. So let's jump into, I'm not even going to get into the tax cuts, all right? But this is what I want to share next, right? So let's go to, what's your reaction to what was unveiled? Let's go here. And let's go. Let's get a reaction. Let's get a fascinating reaction to this proposal, to this economic outlook. Go here. So we are going to hear from the one, the only Senator Bernie Sanders. And let's go to the 3 minute and 8
around the world.
Let's go to
unveiled today. What it would look like, right? When you're saying, okay, here's the substantive stuff, here's the policy, we're putting out the papers and speeches, what it would look like. What's your reaction to what was unveiled today?
Well, I think given the fact that she has been a candidate for only 3 weeks, I think she's doing really, really well in a whole lot of ways. I think what she laid out today was a strong progressive agenda, obviously, in the weeks and months to come. I think she's going to add more specificity to some of these proposals, and she's going to add to it. But, Chris, I have always believed that good policy is good politics. And what she is talking about today is reining in the outrageously high cost of prescription drugs. That's enormously popular, the right thing to do. She's talking about building 3 million units of affordable housing at a time when we have a housing crisis in Burlington, Vermont, Los Angeles, California, and every place in between. We got to lower the cost of housing in America. She's talking about ending medical debt so that a quarter of the people in this country who have cancer do not have to deplete their savings or go bankrupt. So I think she's talking about controlling the cost of groceries when we know that there's been massive concentration of ownership in that industry. They spike prices up, and going after them is exactly the right thing to do and very good politics.
I want to talk about the housing because it's been.
All right. So if Senator Bernie Sanders supports it, we know that this must be an absolutely fascinating, fantastic idea. There you have it, folks. There you have it. This is a strong, progressive idea. Now, let's take a look at let's watch this. Now, let's see what one of my favorite economists had to say about this. Let's go back over to here, and I'm going to put this one. And let me see what your car said. Your car says it just seems like telling BlackRock that they couldn't buy all the effing homes, having would have been easier. I don't know how I feel about that. Let's talk about that real quick, right? Because I don't know much about BlackRock buying all these homes or not, but let's say they did. Can they overprice something? Can they artificially inflate the price of something if there are no buyers? When I went to the store, and the price of like a case of eggs, like for I don't know how much, but it was like $10, right, at BJ's, $15, whatever. I was like, I just want to eat eggs. Like, I just like if the price of, I think if there's no demand for something, can you force the price to be higher? So if they're selling, if a house is being sold for $1 million, but there's nobody who's even coming to see it, no one's looking to buy it, what do they start to do? They start to decrease the price. So if a company buys up all these houses and stuff like that, but there's no one to live in them, it's just gonna let the property sit. So that's what I'm wondering. I really think we're always looking for like some type of boogeyman, because a company, I don't know. I mean, I don't like government getting involved in these type of things. Let's see. Let me see what the chat says. Let me see. Peter Resor. Peter Investor says, how are they going to pay for all these initiatives? Is it budget neutral to raise new taxes? It's a good question. That is a good question. Says your car says Dems sell the country out to big businesses and then pretend they are going to fix the economy with government spending. It's pretty much saying, I just punched you in the face, but let me take you to the hospital to see if you are okay, and let me help you to pay your medical bills after I punch you in the face. How about you just didn't punch me in the face? It says, yes, they are considering the asset, not the cash value. And Alexa says, that part your car. So we got team your car going on over here. Okay, see? It says, if they can own enough of the market, they inflate the pricing. It's like pumping and dumping a stock. Let me think about that. But at the end of the day, you have a bunch of, like, if there's no one to buy them or live in them and stuff like that, you just have a bunch of empty homes. Like, you still need somebody to buy them. Like, I'm just trying to think about it for myself, right? From my perspective, maybe I'm looking at it wrong, but from my perspective, if I had a whole bunch of money and I just bought a bunch of properties that I could not sell, it just feels that I'm just like wasting money on that. So I don't know. I could be missing it. Says your car says you're looking at it the wrong way. They are looking at it as an asset, so they are holding value in it. They won't take a hit until the property is sold. Until then, they can artificially inflate it. Trying to think about it as an asset that's not doing anything. I don't know. Maybe you're right. And it says, all right, there is a boogeyman. If it wasn't, we wouldn't be in this. That is a very, very good point.
Oh, yeah!
+1 for your car on that one. That's a good one. Peter Investor says, to pay for your expenditures, you have several options. You find money from your budget to pay for it. You get money from your profit margin. You leverage money from your assets. You leverage money from assets, your company. Or you just print more money. You just print more money. It's interesting, right? If we were the CFO of a company and we were just like going into massive debt like that, we had no budget in place, we would be fired. However, when you have those same type of ideas, you become the leader of the free world. You become the leader of the free world, or for now, free world for now. All right. So, your car says, think of the home as gold, and the home/gold is worth $1 million. You don't need the gold to do anything but sit there. The market will increase its value, and they can borrow against that asset. I don't know. I don't know if I can see it as gold though. I understand what you're saying. I don't know if I agree with the premise of it being as gold. Because even with gold is supply and demand. If more gold becomes available, then the price of gold is going to go down. If less gold, then the price of gold goes up. So gold is directly related to, like, when the economy is doing bad, the price of gold goes up. When the economy is doing great, the price of gold doesn't necessarily go up. It might even go down. The same way when the housing market crashed back in 2008, the prices of homes dropped drastically. So if there was a housing crash and BlackRock is sitting on all of these homes, right? What value do they have of these homes? Like, if they're, I don't know. So, which is like a home equity loan. Okay, your car with the bars. Let's see. Your car says.
It doesn't matter what you think.
Let's see. All right. So, let's take a quick watch of this.
years ago, when I taught at Brandeis, I traveled from California to Massachusetts and discovered that my auto insurance rates had doubled. And since Los Angeles is not a small village or something, you wonder, why does that happen? Now, at about the same time, many other people were upset because Massachusetts had the highest auto insurance premiums in the country. The political answer was not to say, why are these premiums so high? What fact are they conveying? But it was to control the premiums. In fact, they launched an investigation of the insurance industry, the net result of which was they discovered that insurance companies were losing money in Massachusetts, charging the highest auto insurance premiums in the country. Now, anyone who's ever seen Massachusetts drivers will know that there's no mystery as to why those premiums are so high. The only place where you can regularly see drivers changing lanes in the tunnel during the rush hour is in the Callahan Tunnel in Boston. When I taught at Brandeis, I can recall driving to work on the right-hand side of the street and being surprised to see a tractor-trailer pass me on the right, on the shoulder of the road. The only place where I've seen emergency vehicles with their sirens on, having to jam on the brakes because someone did a left turn in front of them, is in Massachusetts. But of course, people didn't want to hear what the prices were telling them, and so the answer was to control the prices themselves. There have been many other areas in which there have been price controls. They have a standard, really stereotypical pattern. One is that you reduce the supply of whatever is being controlled. Not surprising, since people do less when they're paid less. The other is that you reduce the quality of what's being controlled, because higher quality is costlier than lower quality. And when you force the prices down, people then reduce the quality of what they're producing. One of the classic examples is housing. Wherever rent control has been put in, there is a shortage of apartments. In many places, there's a provision in the law that says this is only a temporary measure until the housing shortage is over. And sometimes they define that in terms of some percentage of vacancy and so on. And what they don't understand is that as long as that law is on the books, there will always be a shortage, and there will never be a time to take the law off the books. In Paris, they put a law like this on the books as an emergency measure during World War I. It was still in force when World War II broke out. In Sweden, they put one in the early days of World War II. Decades later, it was still there. Finally, for some reason, it occurred to someone to take off the price controls. Instantly, there was a housing surplus. The housing projects put up by the Swedish government suddenly began to have high vacancy rates, and in fact had to be bailed out because they couldn't fill them. I thought about rent control a few years ago when I visited West Berlin. It was still a difference in those days. And I could see this marvelous new modern city. And I came back and visited some of my relatives in the Bronx. And as I drove into the Bronx and I saw all these hulks of abandoned and boarded up buildings, I thought, suppose someone from Mars had come down here and you said to him, which of these two cities was bombed during World War II? He would pick the Bronx, because Berlin had recovered from the bombing, but the Bronx had not recovered from rent control.
So, there you have it. Price controls. Rent control, people who keep a property forever because it never has to go up. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. All right. Let me see. Mitch says the value they can borrow against. And that was not fair speaking, Mitch. That was Thomas Sowell. And your car. See, look at that. I love it when Mitch and your car are on the same page. It says, thank you, Mitch. Thank you. Oh. Did we just become best friends? It's the fact that they hold that value and borrow against it, taking the tax hit when they need to sell it. They don't care to sell it. It's just a savings account for them. Cool. I'll look more into it to see. And he's like, oh, look at all the friendship. Oh, it's so sweet. Where's the? Oh. So much love in the chat. I'm telling you, so much love in the chat. I love it. You see, it says Ferris would never wear those glasses. That's hilarious. Where's Ferris when you need him? And the car says a lot of taxes were implemented during wartime and were only stopgap measures, but they are probably here till this day. Till this day. Let's see. Says, that's a hell of a punchline. And says, create your own bank, basically. And it says, no wonder the Bronx is so. Where do you go? No wonder the Bronx is so bad.
Bruh.
And let's see what else we got. We just became best friends. Can I drive? I don't know. Man, did you see the video yesterday for Delta and for Delta suing Microsoft and CrowdStrike? If you didn't see it, you definitely got to see it. You definitely got to see it to understand what your car is talking about. Says I'm blind. Yeah, you definitely gotta go and watch it. If you don't know what your car is talking about, you definitely gotta go watch a video from yesterday. It was a hilarious example I used. All right, what time is it? 11:18. All right, let's watch this real quick, because remember we spoke about the 3D printed homes the other day. So I saw this little video on 3D printed homes, and I wanted to watch it with you guys. So. Let me switch that out. Because I'm very curious about these 3D printed homes. Maybe those 3 million new homes will be 3D printed, huh? What do we think about that? So let's watch. So I'll read the captions, all right? So work is nearing complete on the world's largest 3D printed neighborhood. Some 100 homes have been built by robotic printers in this community since November 2022. The Icon Vulcan printers measure 45 feet wide and something height. Concrete powder, water, sands, and other additives are mixed together and pumped in. A nozzle then lays the concrete mixture layer by layering along a...
One layer at a time, Vulcan prints a full house. It goes from the front of the slab to the back, full one layer. And for these homes in particular, after 10 feet of printing in a few days, you have the wall system for a house.
The single-story 3D printed homes take about 3 weeks to finish printing. Only the walls are printed. The foundation and metal roof are installed traditionally. These walls are designed to be resistant to water, mold, termites, and extreme weather. 3D printed homes is faster, cheaper, and minimizes the waste of construction materials.
What you're seeing in front of you are layers stacked on top of each other, kind of one at a time. The feedback that we're getting from homeowners is how exciting it is to have a different choice in the material. So our different layers provide this kind of corduroy effect, which can actually be really soft and be a great experience for homeowners.
It feels like a fortress, and I've been in some traditionally framed homes, 1-2 story that in a kind of eastward moving Texas storm gets a little shaky inside, and it kind of gives you the feel like being in a cinder block here in a cozy way. So I am confident it could go head on with some, maybe an F2, F3 tornado and be pretty resilient. Okay, so probably the biggest issue that we're running into, and it's a small obstacle, and it's definitely worthy of what we get to live in this house. Some slight connectivity problems, with Wi-Fi. Obviously, these are really strong, thick walls. I think this is kind of like the first generation of the iPhone, you know? People a little skeptical and maybe want to see this technology bring like an immediate wave of affordability to home building. I don't really think that's how anything works. You know, the first technologies to usually hit the market, it takes time for the, you know, cost to adjust and the market to adapt.
So that looks pretty interesting. I love the technology behind it, but as your car says, that does sound like jail. That does sound like jail, like with the walls. But I don't know. I would really want to see. I really want to see the inside of one, like and tour one, because it's. I love the concept, and if you can get a house built that quickly with good quality. I don't know. I'm very curious about that. I wish Junior was in the chat to talk about that. But that sounds interesting. Like how they're using the robotic arms and stuff like that. Let's see what the chat says. All right, so we have your car says that's 3 weeks to build a house is too long. Says with a wood frame. So Peter, investor said Sweden is a case study to pay the social services they use the proceeds of sales of oils put in sovereign fund investment over many years. A wood frame home can be put up in a few hours. I said unit, Mitch, I got cat, and sounds like jail, and the chump. What? Who you calling chump? Chump? Peter Investor says that is why Donald Trump said to pay for his proposal, he will drill. Baby drill. The country has strategic oil reserves. Cool. Awesome. All right. Let's go to, what time is it? 11:24. Let me see. All right. We're going to end it with this. Right? Have to push this one over. I'll push this one over to next week. But this one, let me see. We are going to... This is going to be the last one for today. Last thing we're going to be reviewing for today. All right. Let me see. Your car says, let's do it this fall sometime. I'm going to fly out to Ralph 2 and play basketball. I got to see this from 35 feet. Mitch ain't going nowhere. Mitch ain't going nowhere. All right. Let's do this. Let's go to I want to all right.
Leader.
We are going to the 34-minute mark. I know I wonder how Mitch is going to feel about this. I'm really curious how Mitch is going to feel about this. Let's start watching up here, all right?
And try to understand how they got these numbers. The basic pitch here is they were trying to figure out if there was a wider use and accessibility for the semaglutides, the GLP-1s. These are the hormone molecules your gut produces to tell you you're full. And it helped reduce diabetes, helped reduce obesity in America. They were actually coming up that it actually had a substantial effect on growing the economy. It actually increased GDP. It's at least worth thinking about. This is the thought experiment portion of this program. Think about it. So if I came to you tomorrow, actually today, let's just do it right now, and said, I need something from you we could roll out, and in the next 6 months, we could have a major effect on reducing U.S. spending. Okay, I have all sorts of things I could cut. I know my brother and sister on the left, they would want to raise taxes on people, but I need a policy that you could have a major effect. We have multiple academic studies that make it clear that about 16% of U.S. healthcare spending is people actually not adhering to their drugs. So someone like me, can you believe I have high blood pressure? As long as I take my calcium inhibitor, I don't stroke out. You know, it's a pill that costs, in many ways, it's pennies. It's been off patent for decades and decades and decades. As long as I do my drug adherence, 16% of U.S. healthcare spending is people not adhering to their pharmaceutical policy, or whatever the right way to say that. You do realize 16% of U.S. healthcare spending is close to $600 billion. What if you got a third of that? What if I came to you and said, hey, we can get $200 billion of savings and make our brothers and sisters healthier, maybe a few of them dying? Well, it turns out there are crazy, simple little things, like the pill bottle cap that just beeps at you if you don't open it in the morning. And it's like 99 cents. How many of us have a phone that, you know, the pharmacy, the doctor's office, however you want to do it, could beep at you in the morning and say, hey, remember, it's that time, you should really do this. It's not the way this place thinks. This place thinks about subsidies, giveaways. So remember, the Obamacare, ACA, was a finance bill. It was who had to pay and who got subsidized, and then how much federal money also went into subsidies. It was a financing package. The Republican alternative was a financing package. Medicare for All is a financing bill. How about the revolution of thought? Why don't we change what we pay? By making our brothers and sisters healthier, or maybe curing some things. So this is one of the simplest thought experiments I can give you. If U.S. healthcare, 16% of it is people not engaging in adherence, why not take that on? Is that Republican or Democrat? Or is that just the adoption of technology? Is it just trying to be creative? Look, there's other quirky things, and this is more my personal fascination. I actually am blessed to have a couple staffers who are doing experiments with some of the different wearables that actually can use the data to help them stay healthier, to find out their bodies, because the beauty of you get data off you for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it starts to tell you things. Oh, when I ate that, my body didn't like it. Oh, when I slept this way, my body did like it. These have crashed in price. There's even some health insurance companies now that are working with you saying, will you do a wearable? Look, a couple years ago, I came here, I met a material science professor who had come up with this thing, and we always joked, we called it the flu kazoo. It was something you blew into, it was a breath biopsy. It could almost tell you within a couple minutes, a couple moments, you had a certain type category of virus. It could bang off your health records, and then it could order your antivirals. Would that help us? Would that make us healthier? Would that cut down the cycle time so you don't wait in the waiting room? Yes, except the problem is in most places that technology would be illegal because it would be the algorithm writing a prescription. And every time I say this, I will get someone that says, David, we're going to try to run ads against you because we make money writing prescriptions. I'm just trying to make America healthier and I'm trying to find a way to take down the debt so we don't crush ourselves. The adoption of technology that if it's as accurate and statistically a model like that is more accurate than you and I can be as humans. Why don't we promote it? Why don't we allow people the freedom to take care of themselves while using technology? All right, now here's a crazy one, and I'm going to do this one just because it amused me. Remember how a couple minutes ago I was complaining about Democrats and the way they approach insulin because it was a great campaign issue, but it was technologically vacuous? So here's one. How about if you'd taken a couple of dollars or just actually helped this? So it turns out they have succeeded at doing a DNA tweak to some cattle, and the cattle will produce insulin at a fraction of the price. And you could actually do different tweaks for different types of insulin. I'm just starting to read the academic article, but it exists. These are quirky solutions. And when you have debates around here, it becomes a debate of give away money or give away more money. It's not embrace something that disrupts and makes people healthier and actually at the same time doesn't blow up the U.S. debt and deficits. You can be moral and also have a fiscal brain around here.
And that's why his ideas will go absolutely nowhere, because it would reduce the dependency that we are supposed to have on Big Brother and Big Sister. So I love the technology. I love the innovation, but guess what? You would no longer need mama and papa government anymore. and you would be your own individual human being. And if you were to become self-sufficient, then the whole chaos that goes around the election and politics and stuff like that, people would care less about politics, and it wouldn't be like, because you're like, well, I can take care of myself, so I'm not dependent on, and that is why there's always such, and that's why regulation puts in place, because it's like, well, let me put some regulation, because you need to depend on us in order to tell you if you are allowed to do something or not allowed to do something. So let's see. Let's go to the chat before we finish this off for today. Like I said, today's an extra long show. We are at 2 hours and 10 minutes already. So, Peter Investor says the price of drugs is higher because the pharmaceutical company is the biggest lobby with the military industrial complex. I'll tell you this too, as far as like, because I worked for a pharmaceutical company. Do you guys know how long it takes for, and here's a question. Why? Here's a question. Why is the military industrial complex, why is the pharmaceutical companies, why are they the biggest lobbies? Why? Why is any company a lobby? You ever think about that? The time, like, if you would know, like I said, I worked for a pharmaceutical company. You will go for years trying to develop a product, test a product, running clinical trials, having to do adverse reports, and you're paying millions, close to billions of dollars in research and development, in marketing, all that type of stuff, trying to get approved by the FDA, all these different things you have to go through. So then you're putting a lot of money, and then if you get denied by the FDA, so now when you set the prices, it's all of that is baked into it as well. So now with the lobbying part, they're probably lobbying to try to get their things passed as well, and for them to vote against their competitors from what I would say as well. Why do lobbyists exist? Because I always hear, oh, lobby is bad, lobby is bad, lobby is bad. But why do the lobbyists exist? Because they have somebody to lobby to. My thoughts. Those are my thoughts. And Yakar says, if they do this, I'm buying some Samsung shares. You know what? Let's run it up, Yakar. Let's run it up.
Money.
And Yakar says, because Big Pharma is profitable by treating symptoms and not the actual cause of the symptoms, they don't want you to be healed. That is true. I agree with that. But the question is, does the government want you to be healed? Because guess what, Yakar? Think about this too. And I'm pretty sure you agree with this, right? If you were to get healed, right? If you were to get healed, then so Big Pharma wouldn't be profitable, which means the lobbyists wouldn't be profitable, which means the people in elected offices wouldn't be profitable as well. So it all stems down from the top. It goes from the top down. The less government is involved, in my perspective, the less government is involved, the less there's need for lobbyists, the less there's need for all these red tapes and stuff like that that they have to bribe these government officials into getting around. And why do you think like when there's like a new type of diet that comes out where, eat this way, do that, and it might not be a traditional diet, but they will go, like, the doctors and stuff will go ham on trying to get people not to do it. Although the people who have done these diets, they'll report, oh, like my A1C levels dropped dramatically. I don't have to take insulin anymore. I don't have to do this. I don't have to do that. All these different type of things. Oh, my blood pressure got regulated. All these things, because they changed their lifestyle. Anything else? It says, I don't know about the GMO insulin. That sounds dangerous. It might be. It might be. But here's the thing. Even if it's dangerous, what I commend is the thinking about it, right? Just the thinking about it. It might be something that's like unsafe, like deemed unsafe or whatever. But the fact that this congressperson is thinking about innovative and presenting innovative ideas like the bottle cap idea, that sounds pretty cool. That device to see like where you blow into the device and it tells you if you're like whatever you have, right? Or we already have the fitness apps and stuff like that. But yeah, like, you know, it's I just like the ideas, like whatever you do with the ideas, you know, and lawsuit. I'm not 100% sure what the lawsuit is related to. Lobbying should be made illegal. But Yakar, like, if the government officials aren't on the take, why does there need to be lobbyists? Because, and you're asking the people who are making the laws to ban their main source of income. You know? So that's why it's not going to be made illegal. But lobbyists wouldn't even exist if they didn't have people to lobby to. That's how I see it. There's like, it's supply and demand. It's just supply and demand. Let's see. And if it was illegal, then they'll just do it like under the table. Like just like it'd be the black market of lobbyists. Then like just saying, at least now they have to report where they're lobbying, you know. It says advocate for their interests, legal ramifications from lawsuits if a product adversely affects patients. Yeah. And here's the thing, right? Here's the thing. This is like from what I see, the way that the government they play both sides, right? Because now if the FDA approves a drug, right, but the drug ends up having adverse effects, then they're going to sue the company who created the drug that they approved. So, your card says, then people would stop running for office to get rich and change policy for the good of the people. Yeah, fair enough. Let's see. Mitch says, what people your card says my people. Rob people says we the people. All right, well, that's all I got. That is all that I got for you guys today. So much fun. We went through a lot. Hopefully next week is not as long, but I had a lot of things to review. I hope you guys had a great time. Before we get out of here, you guys know I have a question for you. After all this financial talk, this economic talk, and reviewing the policy, sharing our thoughts, the question is,
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here?
I am very, very, very entertained. We did a lot. Let's see. So Mitch says definitely Ralph's people. And Peter Investor says we need to create a super PAC and lobby for our interest. Well, you know, it's interesting. It is interesting. I don't know exactly who we is. As long as people have the same idea and interest, then sure. Because what I see is that the people who have an interest in something, they are the ones who always get spoken to and accommodated, while the other people who they don't cost anything. They just get ignored. They just get thrown a few platitudes every few years just to, or they just, have the police, set up a police officer to create some type of heinous act. And now then they have your vote, right? So as long as it's not emotional interest and it's like financial interest, then I am all for it. And your crisis, we have training today in the Discord. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. And let's see, anything else? Yep. So especially with today's show and the protection of price controls coming soon to a local grocery store near you, we definitely know that today's price is not, or yesterday's price is not today's price. Today's price is not tomorrow's price, and tomorrow's price is certainly not January's price, because
one more thing. Price of the brick going up.
The price of the brick, the price of the bread, the price of eggs, the prices of everything is going up. So be prepared, stock up, raid your local BJs, and before the price of the brick goes up. With that being said, this is Tech Coach Ralph. We are out.
You might think that getting into the IT field is impossible without a computer science degree, but Tech Coach Ralph is here to prove you wrong. Get ready for some jaw-dropping revelations on how to break into this lucrative industry. Listen up, tech enthusiasts! Are you ready to break through into the IT field, but feel like you need a computer science degree to make it happen? Think again. Tech Coach Ralph has some exclusive, mind-blowing secrets to share with you. Get ready to be blown away by his jaw-dropping revelations on how to break into the tech industry without a computer science degree. So get your notepad ready, because Tech Coach Ralph is going to change your life forever. Buckle up, because you're about to embark on a journey to success in the IT field.
It doesn't matter what you think.